What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Jordan Nagoli, and welcome back to Find Your Edge. And wherever you are watching or listening in the world, thank you, because there's a lot of podcasts out there, and today you chose to watch this one, and for that, I'm very grateful. On today's episode, we have the honor of talking to Bryan Scott. Bryan is a former NFL linebacker. He played in the league for 10 years. Present day, Bryan is an entrepreneur, an investor, a franchisee owner, but most importantly, Bryan is the kindest, most honest, respected, inspirational man that you will ever meet. You're going to love his energy as you're about to see. Bryan Scott, welcome to the show.
Jordan Nagoli, thank you for having me, sir. I
my
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yes.
Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. I just really greatly appreciate you. I'm excited to talk today about your journey, your life story.
Yeah.
Let's start off with this.
Okay.
Give people a behind the scenes. What does a day in the life look like of Bryan Scott?
Of me right now.
Yeah, present day.
Present day. Okay. I'm an early riser. Anywhere from 4:30 in the morning to, I say sleeping in is 6:30, 7 o'clock at the latest. And within 30 minutes, man, I like to be downstairs. I have a home gym. I start my workout routine. And thanks to you, the last time we spoke, you told me what your warm-up was. I've started to incorporate some of those things. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, iron sharpens iron.
Yes, sir.
And so, yeah, my workout routine is about 45 minutes to an hour. And then during the fall, if the kids are in school, then, shower, get dressed. And then I spend time with the kids, little ones, walk them to the bus stop. And then I get into my business day, man. And that consists of, I try to get through those emails. I've already looked at the night before. I look at my meetings, and kind of plan out, okay, here's where I need to be in and at what time. And then, that's the day. I try to leave the office or wrap up my meetings around 4:30, 5 o'clock latest, so I can get home, dinner time with the family. Once the kids are down, quality time with the wife.
Yep.
And then, man, I try to be asleep. So I need 7 hours of sleep.
Okay.
And for those listening, I think it's really important to figure out how many hours of sleep you need every night.
Yep.
And for me, it's 7 hours. Anything over 7, I'm tired. Anything less than 7, I'm tired, right? So if I'm in bed at 9:30, that means I'm waking up at 4:30 the next day. 10:30, 5:30. You get it.
I do.
And
Out of 7 days in a week, how much are you hitting that 9:30 to 4:30?
Maybe 1 or 2. It's not a lot now.
Yeah.
It really depends. So, we're part of a business networking group.
Yep.
Those are the mornings that I need to be up early because I'm at the networking group by 7.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving my house at 6:30. So I need enough time to get up, get my workout in before I start. So
Makes sense, man. And then tell people because man, we're going to get into that. You've done so much in your life. What's your business right now? What are you working on right now?
Yeah. So, man, I'm with Foot Solutions. We are a foot wellness company, a retail-based franchise foot wellness company that we specialize in making custom orthotics. And we sell different various brands of, we call it healthy footwear, brands you've heard of, and then other medical brands that you probably not have heard of. But retail-based, we have about 70 locations, man. And it feels really good to help people.
Yeah.
That we help people stay healthy on their feet, man. So, yeah, that is the business right now.
What drew you to Foot Solutions?
You know what? So I need to take you through this whole story. And, when I retired from playing football, I went through this period of not knowing what was next. And I took advantage of all of the things that the NFL offered. There was the broadcast boot camp that was out there. There was the music business boot camp because I really love music, trying to figure out if I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I got into the franchise space, man, a fitness facility. And at the same time, I was introduced to this material science called Noeen that absorbs and disperses shock. And before I knew it, I got on Shark Tank to present this material. So those were the two things that I had going. It was the fitness facility and it was Noeen. And after a couple of years, I just felt like my wheels were spinning and I felt as though I wasn't gaining enough traction that I wanted to gain, not so much from the financial side, but just personally, like the growth. You always want to be just improving, right?
Yep.
And I reached back out to the NFL and I took advantage of another program. And through that program, I was actually introduced to Target. And during this networking, Target says, they were like, all right, so after you got finished playing football, what have you done? And I started talking about Noeen, but more specifically, this franchise was in the fitness world. And they said, how's fitness going? And I said, you know what? I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But what I've picked up is people, they don't buy you. I mean, they don't buy your products, they buy you, right? I said, because I hate to say this as a fitness owner, you can work out for free. I don't know why anybody pays for fitness. You can go outside, walk, but what I realized is if you create a community in a space that people enjoy coming, then they'll come. And people would say, man, I came for the workout, I stayed for the people. So that was kind of my thing. And Target said, that's really interesting because as e-commerce has taken off, people can be at home in their PJs and buy whatever it is they need. They really do not need to step foot into a retail setting. How do you keep retail brick and mortar competitive? And the way that you do that is by creating a space where they enjoy coming. So they said, we're trying to become more guest-centric. How would you like to be part of this program? Be in a store and run the program to like put together these programs where people enjoy coming, And I was like, well, look, I've never been, I didn't really come down here for, for a job, but what's intriguing is Target's a great company. I think I can learn a lot and then apply it to my own businesses.
Yeah.
So I've never been in retail. I've never been in corporate, but if you're also telling me my job responsibility is to bring joy to people, you had me at hello. I need to bring smiles. You got me. And so I took that role, man, for a year. And while I was in that year, I learned a lot. One of the things I also learned that retail and big box retail, it never ends. There's no off season. It is constantly there. And Target's only closed really at the time 2 days a year, Easter Sunday and Thanksgiving. Christmas. I'm sorry, Christmas and Easter Sunday. They are even open on Thanksgiving. They'll close in the morning, but then yes. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever's next for me, because I don't see the succession plan inside of this company. There's a couple of things that I really, really want to be able to do. One, time freedom. Now I realize the value of time freedom, number one. Number two, my own businesses, the fitness facility and Noween, I really want to make sure that I can spend time with that and grow that, cultivate that. Number three, and this is probably number one, whatever it is, I need to be making a positive difference in people's lives, right? And then lastly, I want to be around a group of people who are, they know how to accumulate wealth, but they don't do it with a shark mindset. They need to care about people first. Money can't be the motivator, right? Because you can be around people that they do very well, but they don't do it the right way. Those were the things on my prayer list, man. So one day I'm in Target and my future business partner, this gentleman comes around the corner. I come around the corner. I'm like, hey man, you ready to check out? I got you. Let me open up this check lane for you, right? Because I found joy in opening up check lanes for people if the lines were starting to get long. Like I was supposed to radio in and say, hey, can we have more people come to the front? But I really enjoyed that, hopping on a cash register. Said, hey, let me check you out. And he said, you're Bryan. I was like, yeah. He said, we need to sit down and have coffee. My wife told me we needed to sit down and have coffee. From that meeting, man, he sat down and he was like, look, we are about to, buy this business called Foot Solutions, a small investment group. Have you heard of it? I was like, not really. And he explained exactly what it was. And he said, but I was on your LinkedIn and I'm seeing your background. Like, why are you in Target? What's all these things going, right? And I talked him through it, but that was how I got involved in Foot Solutions, man. So I call it divine connections for sure. Because everything that I had on the prayer list, it checks all of those boxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that story.
I know. I'm sorry. I just took you on a long journey.
That's what we have, people. That's what we want on the show, man. Because I never would have. I honestly thought you and John. That was John, right?
Yeah, John. Yeah.
I thought you and John were just introduced just through mutual business friends.
Yeah. No.
So he randomly saw you at Target.
And
how did he recognize? Well, I mean, you're very recognizable, but
what's funny is he had told his wife when they were about to purchase the business. He said, "Hey, honey, we're going to open up this retail spot, and you shop a lot. Do you know of anyone in the retail stores that you shop in that you think would be a good manager for this store?" And she said, "John, there's this guy that's in Target. I don't know what he does because you see him all over the place. He's always smiling. It's worth a conversation." And so John said, John's a spiritual guy. And he said, "Bryan, before I walked into Target, I said a quick prayer and I was like, Lord, if Brian's my guy, don't make this weird. I'm going into his place of business.
Yeah.
Don't make it weird. He came around the corner. I came around the corner like, hey, you ready to check out? And yeah.
Life is beautiful.
It is.
That's incredible, man.
It really is.
That's incredible. Okay. We're going to pivot now. Thank you for sharing that story because I had no idea it had all that detail.
Yeah.
And we'll dive more into Foot Solutions and all your business ventures. But man, let's go all the way back in time.
Okay.
Tell me where you were born, and I'd love to
Yeah.
hear about life growing up for you as a kid.
Yeah. So born in D.C., Washington, D.C., Howard University. My dad at the time was in dental school. And Howard's in Washington, D.C., but we lived in Greenbelt, Maryland. Stayed there maybe another year or two, and then he opened up his practice in 1983 in Philadelphia. So was actually raised in a small town right outside of Philadelphia called Warrington, Pennsylvania. And man, life, so family dynamic. Mom, dad, older sister, younger brother. I'm the middle child. People talk about middle child syndrome.
Me too.
You too.
I'm
All
middle
right.
child. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah, but very loving family. The morals and the lessons that we learned as kids, parents did an amazing job of just trying to instill, really, it's love and kindness.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? Yeah, so it was a great childhood, man. I often kid with my siblings and say, older sister, younger brother. I was the one that was left out because we were always taught you got to take care of your older sister, and then you got to always look out for your baby brother.
Yep.
And then me, I was just kind of left to hang fight for myself. But I couldn't be farther from the truth.
What are the age gaps between your siblings?
2.5 years each way. So we are really close. We still call each other 3 peas in a pod.
That's fine.
It's
Identical
us.
to mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Older brother,
Okay.
younger sister, but 2.5 years apart.
Yeah.
And exactly that. I got away with a little bit more than my older brother.
Okay.
But my sister
Okay.
was the princess, and we always caught the flack for anything
That's
that
right.
went down.
That's right.
So your dad was a dentist.
Yeah, or a surgeon.
What are your memories? So you said your parents instilled positivity and kindness in you guys.
Yeah.
Would you say that they exemplified those qualities too? Because whenever I tell people about you, man, it's different. Like Travis is behind the camera, but you feel what I'm saying right now, man. And I'm not here to blow smoke or make you feel good about yourself. It's a radiating energy. And I would like, did you watch them have that first and then you built that quality? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think, man, yeah, my parents are the same way. We would always just look at life and find the blessings in it. Like it was never a woe is me or I'm going through this. It was always just, hey, here's our situation and how do we make the best of it? That's why I always say I live in a world of unicorns. Things it either works out or it works out.
Yeah, I love that quote.
That's just how I view life, man. And I believe that you will have bad moments in life. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
But how do you make those moments just that? Make it a short moment. Don't turn it into a day. Don't turn it into a week, a month, a year. Like this is what this is. It's okay. I'll be in my feelings, but I'm gonna find whatever the good is from it and keep it moving.
Yeah. So small town outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
What are your earliest memories of sports?
Oh man. This will be funny. So first I was a baseball player. I played baseball and soccer before I got into football.
Really? Okay.
And baseball, I was so bored. They put me in the outfield. And as a little kid, if it doesn't come out there, you find yourself just looking around.
Yeah.
They put me on the pitcher mound for a game, and they had to relieve me because I was throwing everything all over the place. Nothing was
everywhere
going
but over the plate.
That's right. Everything but over the plate. And man, I remember we were driving by this Pop Warner football field, and it was one day, and all the kids were out there, and we were in the car like, Mom, what is that?
Yeah.
And we pulled in, and we're like, we want to play. We want to do it. I was 5. And I saw the little kids with the helmets that are like 3 sizes too big for them, running around. And I was too young to play tackle football at that age. They were like, you can't play tackle, but you can play touch. And I cried. I was like, no, I want that helmet. I want those pads. It was the Warminster Pioneers. And we signed up, man. My sister was a cheerleader. My brother played. I played. And this was 5 years old, from 5 all the way up until I hit middle school. Except 1 year. I played every single year. And that was my introduction into sports, man. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
at that age, because I've talked to a few professional athletes over the years, and some people, they fall in love immediately. Some people don't realize until later on. Did you really find a passion and love for it then, and you were training yourself as a kid? What was that like?
You know what? I just loved to be active. It didn't matter what it was. We were kickball in the yard, stickball. It didn't matter. I just liked to play.
Yeah.
And I found enjoyment in it. You know, I thought I was every kid back in the, the 90s. So I was born in 81, right? Early 90s thinking, I want to be the next Michael Jordan. So I'm thinking, oh man, this is great. I hit a couple of growth spurts. I could dunk when I was in the 7th grade. And I was like, oh man, Mike, watch out.
What?
Here I come. But I stopped. I didn't grow not another inch like after 8th grade. It kind of tapped out. But
what's it feel like dunking in 7th grade?
Man, it was amazing. But it was watching, playing on AAU teams or other all-star teams and seeing some other kids do it. And I was like, man, my mentality always, and I don't ever compare myself to others. But when I see people doing things and it's like, well, I want to do that too, right? So you're not comparing yourself in a bad way to say like, well, I want to attain what they have or I need to, no, keeping up with the Joneses, not that at all. But it's when you see something that's valuable, it's like, man, like when I came in here, I was like, Jordan, your setup is amazing, man. Like how can you hook me up? How do I get this? And so there were certain things. I don't know if you remember the strength shoes that were out.
The ones that would
had
work
the
on
little
your
platform,
yes.
they work
Be
on
higher
your
up
calf,
on your
and it was
calves.
like run faster,
bought
jump
them.
higher.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yes.
I was like, I want to be able to dunk and do that stuff.
Yep.
So, summer days I'd be out there with these strength shoes on. I would get on a bike and find, a huge hill and just ride up that hill all the time, just doing things because I just wanted to be able to, it's amazing. Once you set your mind to something, like, how can I get there? How can I do it? And then you enjoy the journey. A lot of people don't like the journey, but enjoy it. Work for it. Go get it. Like, I appreciate that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what drives me. Yeah.
The journey is the reward.
It is.
I firmly believe that.
It really is.
I'm not sure about yourself. Obviously, when you accomplish a goal, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes away pretty quickly.
It does.
Like, it only lasts for so long.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct.
I'm curious about this. It's kind of a quick side note. What are your thoughts on athleticism current day and age? Because what I've seen, I follow a lot of sports on YouTube and Instagram, things like that. I feel like the more people see things being done, there's almost no limitations. I don't know if people are more athletic now, but the dunks people are able to do now would have won the dunk contest in the NBA 20 years ago.
20 years ago. Yeah.
And I'm just curious your thoughts as someone that has played at the highest level.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, on just that next generation of athleticism?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think one, yes, as we continue to evolve, there's better science in how you train and how you fuel the body. There's all these things, man. And I think with that, I'll be the first to say it. These kids that are coming out now, they are faster, stronger, bigger, all of those things. So yeah, they're able to, records are, I don't know of, here's a trivia question. Is there any sports record from like way back then that is still there today? Like you think of track, how much faster are people, running track and field records, lifting records? It really is crazy, but I think it plays a part in all of that stuff. Just the science behind how to train and fuel your body and things that you don't know what you don't know. You know?
No, I totally agree. And like you said, because when you said you saw your friends dunking, it's
Yeah.
almost like, oh, I could do that too. And then other people start dunking, and it's just, I love it, man. I love sports and athletics.
Yeah.
And on that note, so going back to your high school years, you playing Pop Warner all through elementary and middle school.
Yep.
When did it shift for you to where, hey man, I like playing sports, I'm an athlete, to wow, I really have a shot at doing something with my life? Because everyone has those dreams.
Everyone has those dreams.
And honestly, high school hits.
Everyone has those
and
dreams.
you're like, oh wow, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Or I am much better than the competition. I'm curious about that.
Man, Jordan, transparently, I don't know if I ever really had that moment of, oh, I can do this.
Really?
There were certain periods during, like, I thought about this actually today because someone asked me, they said, do you have any defining moments like in your sport, maybe in a game, where it just changed your outlook on something? and they were asking about my outlook on life. I
Mm.
said, never on life. I said, but there are moments that I can look at, whether it was Pop Warner, high school, college, even professionally, to say, I can play at this level. But never did I think, while I was in high school, I never thought, like, it was always a dream. Oh, I'd like to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
But then when I was in high school, I wasn't thinking NFL. I was thinking, man, I really enjoy playing high school football. I was just in the moment. That was it. When the letters started coming in, I had a problem saying no to colleges. So every college coach that called, I'd be like, hey, son, are you interested in blah, blah, blah university? I'm not, I haven't really given it thought, but I'm not shutting the door on the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you for it. And when I made the decision to go to college, and I chose Penn State out of my decision, my opportunities, I got there and I still was just like, man, this is kind of cool, but I don't know if I can compete at this level.
Yeah.
And then there was an aha moment where it was like, okay, I can compete at this level, but I wasn't thinking this can catapult me to the NFL.
Yeah.
Man, I love being a student athlete. I love Penn State. I love my teammates, my friends, my education. I'm really cherishing
So
this
you were in the
moment.
moment.
Always in the moment. After my senior year, my position coach, our defense
Of high
coordinator,
school or
this is now college,
college. Okay.
called me in his office and he said, Bryan, have you thought about going to the next level? And I said, Scrap, when I was a kid, I always wanted to play in the NFL, but I don't know. I honestly, I don't know if I'm good enough to play. I don't know. And he said, look, you have a lot of great intangibles. Just give it a shot. Why wouldn't you? And interestingly enough, when he said that, give it a shot, that's how I kind of there were a lot of times you're on you're on different paths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you come to forks in the road. And I almost did not play high school football because it was the same conversation. I was like, Dad, I don't think I'm good enough to play in high school. I don't know if I want to play.
Wow.
And he shared a story with me where he played in college, had an opportunity to try out for the pros in the NBA, and the day he did not show up. And he said, Bryan, one of my regrets, I didn't dress up and show up for that workout. Don't have that regret, man. And that's really what said, okay, I'll try out for high school football.
Wow.
And from that, I was the Gatorade Pennsylvania Player of the Year and had all these scholarship opportunities. And I was like, man. So you fast forward, now I'm in college, and when my coach said, man, give it a shot. Focus in for these next couple of months, get yourself ready for the pro day and combine, and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And so I did that. A dream to play in the NFL, draft day comes, and they call my name in the second round, 55th pick overall. I still get emotional when I think about it because it's like, man, this was a dream and it's crazy. It's happening. But when I got there, again, it was, and I was in the moment. I just had fun. I loved practice. I loved training. I loved competing. I loved my teammates, There were times that I didn't. I had those moments, but the grand scheme, I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't until I got out, I retired. And just thinking back on it, I was like, man, that was crazy. That was really fun.
Yeah.
I go to the stadium now. I go to football games, and I was like, I did do that. It seems like it's all a blur now, but I had so much fun when I was there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that I ever had that just moment to say this will be a livelihood of mine. I'm going to be a pro. Every step of the way, I was just enjoying that moment, man.
I think that's really good for people to hear too, because I think sometimes if you live in too far ahead in your mind, that'll cause anxiety and you will not get in the flow state. And you'll not be present in the moment. We're definitely going to talk about college and about the NFL. I am curious a little bit about high school. So I was looking you up and looking up your man. You were the man.
No.
You rushed for 3,000 yards, had 53 tackles and 3 interceptions as a senior. You averaged 20 points a game in basketball, and you medaled as a 100 and 200 meter dash athlete. So, Mr. Humble over here, you were the man. And what I'm curious about is how'd you keep a level head, and what was that like? Because you were clearly finding success, but you didn't let things get in the way or deter you. How did you balance all of this?
So what does that mean? You just read some things, and to me, I was always like, but I haven't done anything. You have people that have done so much more. Others that are trying to like, I'm having fun. This is all this is. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying this moment. I'm not a stat guy. I don't pay attention to that stuff, man. And so,
Yeah.
and because of it, yeah, I guess that's what it was. It just was like, man, the team sports, how do we lift each other up? How do we have fun? We want to win games, but my job is just as important as the person that was making sure to give us water and make sure those water bottles were filled. Like that has always been my outlook. It doesn't matter what position or role you play. You need every single person to win. And they'll preach that in organizations like the groundskeeper. We need this field right in order to go out and play well, like prevent injury. Your job is important. We're all in this together. Just because they call someone else's name more than they call yours, man, that doesn't matter. They don't. The offensive line, how many times you really hear their names called?
Unless you're a real fan, you don't know. Yeah.
You don't know. Or unless it was a penalty, holding call on.
Yeah.
Man, if they don't do their job and protect that quarterback's not going to be any good. Everyone is important.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So you've had that mentality from a younger age of the team effort.
Yeah.
There's no I in team, which
That's
is, I mean,
right.
especially on a football field.
That's right.
You've got a lot of guys.
That's right.
And you need everyone. Man,
My late coach, Coach Larry Green, would always say, every player, every play. You need all 11 guys on every single play. Every player, every play stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're having success in high school, but you don't let it get to your head. You stay focused. Why'd you choose Penn State?
So at the time, this is how much you don't know when you're 18. The number one requirement of college, they had to be a Nike school.
That was your requirement?
That was my requirement.
I appreciate. We all appreciate your
Nike
honesty.
School. I'm 18. I was like, man, I just want to wear Nikes.
What year is this, by the way?
This was 99. Was my freshman year.
Oh, so this is the hate. I mean,
Man.
Nike's still very popular.
Yes.
But this is like Jordan had just won his 6th.
Yes. I was like, it got to be a Nike school.
Yeah.
Yes. So
That's
that was
funny.
a requirement. But ultimately, man, when I got to Penn State and I sat down with Coach Paterno, it was in the words that he said, how he recruited me. And I'll tell you this, the first 10 minutes of me sitting down was one-on-one in his office. I don't remember what that man said because I was just like, I'm sitting here in front of Coach Joe Paterno.
It's Joe Paterno.
He's talking to me. Like there's no one else in this room.
Yeah.
But what stuck with me, he said, Bryan, I don't want you to come to Penn State because we have a decent football program. And at the time, they were preseason ranked number 1. And he said, decent football program. I don't want you to come to Penn State because we have a decent football program. He said, I don't want you to come to Penn State because maybe your friends and your family, me being 3 hours outside of Happy Valley, right? A lot of teachers and friends, oh man, you got to choose Penn State. I don't want you to come here because you might be hearing the hoopla or people trying to persuade your decision. Why I do want you to come here is because, he also said, I don't want you to come here because I don't like to play freshmen. So I can't tell you that you're going to play your freshman year. I don't like to play freshmen. And I can't promise you I'll be here all 4 years. I'm getting older. I just want to tell you all of those things. He said, why I do want you to come here is because I promise you and your folks that I will make sure you go to class. I want to make sure that you graduate. And upon graduation, I want to try to set you up so that you make a positive impact in society. That's what he said. Only coach that said that. Every other school that was recruiting me pretty much was, you can come here and start as a freshman. You can leave after your junior year and go to play, professionally. It was just all these other things, but he really came to me as a grandfather. And for that, I really, really appreciated that. So when I got on campus, I was still thinking, I might not play as a freshman. It's fine. Let me make sure I'm going in class, doing all those things. And as you would have it, I did play as a freshman. Yeah, I was one of 3 in my class to play as a freshman, which was kind of fun.
That's amazing. And that it makes sense though for the program he built over the years, and hearing that back, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's probably not what is told to a lot of people.
That's right. That's right.
And he's setting you up for success for the rest of your life.
Yep.
Did I read correctly? You started all your games that you played at Penn State?
Man, honestly, I don't remember, but not my freshman year.
Not
I did
freshman
not
year.
start freshman
Okay.
year. No, I played freshman year, but I didn't
Played
start.
freshman
Yeah,
year.
yeah. I was a
What
3-year starter.
what was the biggest difference from going from high school to college? Do you remember,
Oh man,
like, what was your
yeah.
welcome to college moment where you're like,
Oh,
man, I'm with men now?
that was before just watching them work out. I mean, when I
Mm,
was a freshman, so on our team, we had the guys. LeVar Arrington was on the team. He was a number 1 overall draft pick. Courtney Brown, who was the number 2 overall draft pick that same year. Guys like Brandon Short. I mean, all Americans, right?
yeah.
And so watching these guys, and I remember thinking when I took a visit, again, it was the mentality of watching them practice and looking at these guys, calves muscles and biceps. I was like, I can't play,
Yeah.
with that. That's crazy. And so yeah, just watching that kind of stuff happen, man, and it really was very eye-opening to see how much faster the game moved when you got to that level. You think you're moving at a really decent speed, that next level, everyone's moving at that speed or faster, right?
Yeah.
And then the same thing was in the pros. Everyone's moving at the speed and faster. You got bigger guys moving faster, just that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What give the listeners an idea of what it's like being a student athlete, because the whole point of this show is to break down misconceptions, and
Yes.
people think
Yes.
it's you're a star and you can do whatever you
Yeah.
want. Break it down for us.
No, man. So our schedule was during the season, you could either lift before your meetings or after. So to lift before meetings, that means if you had an 8 o'clock class, you had to get up really early, go to the weight room, get your lift in. Then breakfast was mandatory. So everyone had to check in for breakfast. Like there was no sleeping in. You had to get up, go check in for breakfast. And then for most of us, we had an 8 o'clock class because then you had to fit all of your classes between 8 and 2. Because at 2 o'clock, you were walking your tail across campus to the football facility. And that was probably very difficult early in my college career because especially in the spring, man, everyone's out on the lawn playing frisbee, just laying there, just chilling. And it's like, we got to go to practice. So you and your teammates, your buddies, you're walking across campus and you go in, you check into the facility, get yourself ready for films and practice. After your practice is over, then you break down more film. And then as a freshman, you had study hall. Like it was mandatory. Coach Paterno was like, you're a freshman, everyone has to be in study hall, man. That's where you if you needed help, like you needed extra help with tutors, whatever it was, that's what it was. So there were times you didn't really get back to your room until, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, but that was your day,
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about how much time goes into you go to school and your work is football. This is what you do,
Yeah.
And the guys that really started to embrace that, I think those are the ones that really thrive. The other ones that, and it's totally fine for those that were like, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell young kids all the time, when you go to college, if you don't love being an athlete side of it, don't do it. It will make you being a student, it will make those student years terrible.
Yeah.
And you really should enjoy the college experience if you're going off to college.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time where you really kind of second guessed, like maybe this isn't for me, or you were pretty locked in?
Oh, man, for sure. Oh, after freshman year, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
But again, it was one of those things where it was like, I just don't know if I fit in. I don't know if I enjoy football. Honestly, I stopped loving the game of football at that age because it was such a business. And I mean, when you think about it, it's like I'm on full scholarship. They're essentially paying me to perform well and to be here. It's a business.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like it. Man, guys are trying to take guys' heads off. I'm a nice guy. I don't necessarily, I don't have that anger, And so I remember reaching out to my cousin who's older than me, and he played at Georgia Tech, and then he went on to play for the Detroit Lions. And I would call him and say, man, his name's Ryan Stewart. I'm like, Rye. And they say, I need to have a little more anger. I need a little more something, I'm not mean enough.
Yeah.
And he would say, cuz, go get you a little bottle of hot sauce, put it under your tongue before practice. That'll help you bring the heat.
Tell me you did that.
I did it once, but I was like, man, my mouth was on fire this whole practice, and I'm not doing that again.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, they're trying to kill you. I mean, effectively,
Yeah.
these guys, I
Yeah.
mean, it's aggressive.
I mean, when you think about it, right? And here you got a kid that's just, man, I'm just living in the moment. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it. I just want to be the best that I can be. I'm not thinking about anything else. Kids are in school because that is their way out. That is going to change not just their lives, but their families, right? And so they're thinking of, no, this is it for me. Like, I got to make this work.
Yeah.
And so when you're competing against people that I got to do this, right? There is no, I can't go back home. I don't have anything to go back home to. But that stuff, that didn't really register to me until I then got to the league and you sit down and you hear, some of the guys' stories. But yeah, it's just a different mentality, man. It really is. But it's and when you get to the league, when you get drafted, you're sitting in a room knowing that they drafted you to take one of those vets' positions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not everybody can stay on this roster.
I didn't think about
Somebody
it that way.
got to go home. Completely different mentality,
Yeah.
right? When you're like, man, this is how I feed my family.
Yeah.
And you come in here as a young guy thinking you're going to take that from me. No. Yeah.
Gives me chills thinking about.
Yeah.
Last thing about college, what's one of the best memories or just memorable moments from it could be on the field, off the field? What do you
Yeah.
think back about Penn
Yeah.
State?
Man, there are so many. I mean, off the field, it was just the teammates, the friendships that you formed. A lot of times, we would have to be up there over the summertime, so not a lot of people on campus, and it's just you and your teammates. And, after a day's practice, we'd go back, and we were in like an apartment complex. You could come out your apartment, and it was like the whole team was just right
Yes.
there. Some guys would have their little grills and bring it out, and, we'd have like little block parties. So little things like that really stood out. When you think back to, when I think back to college, the biggest thing, and even professionally, the games were great. Yes, there are some moments that you really, really have taken in and you're like, man, that was a great moment, great win, great comeback, or a tough loss. I wish I had that back. But you think about the traveling, the plane rides, the locker room antics, and how funny guys can be.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you really think about and miss when your sports career is over.
That's beautiful, man. That's
Yeah.
what I hear a lot of athletes say that. It's
Yeah.
that camaraderie. And it's a lot of, I think it's cool for fans to hear it because we're not
Yeah.
in those rooms.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
just see y'all play, but we want to come behind and be like, man, this is awesome. Like a
Yeah.
fly on the wall. So that's so cool to
Yeah.
hear, man.
And a lot of that stuff, and especially back then, like there was no social media like that.
Yeah.
There were no camera phones where you could capture things. But a lot of that stuff anyway, it's so sacred.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I
You shouldn't
cannot
show it.
share
Yeah.
this
No,
with the world.
no.
But it is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, anyone listening, male or female, you've got your boys, you've got your girls.
Yes.
There's a group chat. You don't want anyone to see.
That's
You know,
right.
yeah. Like,
That's right.
There's that secrecy.
That's
so.
right. And even today, man, I'm still in a Penn State football group chat.
Really?
And there's probably like 50 of us in it. And, it still is just, it's really good.
That's
I really
amazing,
appreciate
man.
that. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that,
Yeah.
man. So NFL. So get into the league. So
Yeah.
you mentioned it a little bit earlier in the interview, but which coach did you sit down with? Who came to talk to you and said, hey, have you thought about going to the next level?
Yeah. So that was Tom Bradley.
Okay.
While I was at Penn State, he was our defensive coordinator. When I first got there, he was our secondary coach. And then he became our defensive coordinator. Yeah.
So what I want to understand is you're on a scholarship
Yeah.
and you went all 4 years. You
Yeah.
played. Okay. So you graduated. So what was in your mind at that point? What were you majoring in?
Yeah. So the official title is Recreation Park Management.
Okay.
And I would get a lot of slack. People would be like, what do you want to be, a park ranger? Like, what is that? Basket weaving? What are you doing? Well, but it really was an offshoot of like business management. So anything in the recreational field. So even today, when you think about it, I got into the world of fitness. That falls underneath it. Owning theme parks. Anything that people do for recreation, owning a business, that's what it was.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that was your plan. That was the plan. So at what point? So you hadn't really thought about the league until it was obviously a dream.
Yeah.
But at what point did Coach Bradley come to you? What time of the year was that?
Yeah. I want to say it was after my junior year,
Okay.
going into my senior year,
Got it.
to say, hey, this is what this is. You're on a list of one of the top defensive backs.
Wow.
Have you thought about it? And then after the season, again, it was, have you given it thought? Because here's, it can be a nice head start for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel pressure that senior year to perform? Again, were you just, because man, I keep
I
hearing
was
this
in the
theme of in the moment.
I was in the moment. Jordan, I was in the moment.
Wow.
I was in the moment. I was just having a good time, enjoying myself.
I mean, I want other people to take away. That's my big takeaway from this, man, is like living in the moment.
Live in the
And
moment.
that's how a lot of times you can find success because you're
Yeah.
not too far ahead or too far behind.
That's right.
So walk me through, you graduate college.
Yep.
What is the in between for someone that has no idea? Like you graduate as an athlete and you declare for the league? How does that work?
Yep. So I was part of I had my pro day, combine, all of that stuff. I took an internship actually in the football weight room. And that way it kept me around.
At Penn State?
At Penn State.
Okay.
And my job responsibilities, like I would take the younger guys through their lifts, make sure that they were lifting correctly, doing everything. I had to clean the weight room, make sure it was spick and span. And then in between my morning session and evening session of the guys coming in, then the strength coach would actually go train me. Jeremy Scott, who's now actually an NFL strength coach, which is great.
Wow.
He would take us over, to the indoor facility. We would work on our speed work, our strength, all of the drills that we were going to be doing for the combine and pro day. That's what it was. I had learned how to cook, not very well, but just enough to say like, these are my healthy options. Like I can make these things. So I wasn't eating fast food. Like I really was trying to be dialed in, man, because I knew it was a moment in time. If I can stay focused, let's see what comes of it.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. And I graduated the spring, and the draft is in the spring, April. I went home. I didn't want to go to New York City or Radio Hall. I wanted to be at home with just family.
Wow.
And when I went home the draft weekend, it was mom and dad, sister, brother, and then my aunt and uncle, my Aunt Kathy and Uncle Patrick. We were just at home. And they tell you on draft day, I always was curious, man, what are people doing on the phone when you get drafted? Like, get off the phone.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But they tell you, hey, if you get a phone call and it's from a team, be available. Keep your phone on you. And that was the day of, I want to say the first round, second round, and third round were all on the first day. And first round draft picks, the teams had 15 minutes to choose their selection. So you can imagine it's a long day.
Yeah.
It is a long day. So got up that morning, all excited, had my phone charged, ready. And the first round went through, and and people would call just to be like, hey, B, have you heard anything yet? No, I haven't heard anything. Like, I got to keep this line clear. Hey, Granny, no, I didn't hear anything yet. I got to
you
keep
get
my
a call
line clear.
thinking it's them.
I get a call as soon as every time the phone rang. Oh man, no, it's not. Hey, no, I got to keep the line clear. And there was a period where I got so frustrated because I was thinking, and I think it just hit me, all these emotions. It was like, all right, you haven't heard your name called. And Brandon, my brother, he said, man, let's go outside. So we went out to the driveway and we started dribbling a basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I just got so full of emotion. I took that basketball and I just like kicked it across the yard. He was like, man, what's wrong? It still makes me emotional. And I started crying. I was like, man, I said, B, I don't know what's in my future. I said, I don't know if my name's going to get called. And if it doesn't, do I ever play another down of football? Like, I really appreciate, I've been playing since I was 5 years old. It could be over for me. If it does get called, where in the world am I ending up? What part of the country? Like, I have no idea what is happening right now. And so phone is still ringing and it's still friends. No, I can't take this call, And so I went back in the house and I gave the phone to my sister. And I said, Kim, I just can't do this anymore. Take the phone. If it's, whoever calls, just tell them I'll call them back. And obviously, if it's an NFL team, give me the phone. Within 2 minutes, Jordan, and my sister, she had went to college down here, Spelman College. And so she was living in Atlanta. Within 2 minutes, the phone rings, and she's like, it's a 770 number. I know that's Atlanta. I was like, I don't know anybody in Atlanta. Answer it. So she was like, hello, Bryan's phone. And her face, her jaw dropped. She was like, it's the Atlanta Falcons, and hands me the phone. And I was like, give me the phone, give me the phone, give me the phone. So I get on the phone. I'm like, hey, this is Bryan. And they said, hey, Bryan, this is such and such for the Atlanta Falcons. We're just curious. have you gotten into any like car accidents or gotten hurt in the last, ever since your pro day? And I was like, no, not at all. I'm still healthy. They said, do you think you could still run as fast as you did that you ran on pro day? Because I ran a 4.38 during pro day. Yes, sir. Or faster if you need me to, sir. Yes. They said, well, listen, we have our pick coming up here, and we're going to take you with our next pick. And I was like, man, thank you. I'm so honored. And so my sister ran downstairs, and at this point, my dad fell asleep on the couch. Mom's in the kitchen cooking, and she was like, "It's happening, it's happening!" And the draft was on TV, and I could hear moments later, with the 55th pick of the 2003 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select defensive back Bryan Scott from Penn State, and they all start, yeah, and I'm on the phone, and once you get picked, you have to do these quick interviews. They get the media on, the press on, quick blurbs. And when it was said and done, man, I hung up the phone and I went downstairs. It's crazy.
Yeah.
My brother came over to me, gave me a hug. We both started crying, embracing each other like, man, this really just happened. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, they said I got to fly to Atlanta tomorrow. And I was like, I don't have a suit. I need a suit. It was like 8:30 at night. The malls close at 9, and I'm flying out first thing in the morning. We hop in the car and book it to the mall. As the gates are coming down, my dad goes up under. He was like, hey, my son just got drafted to the Atlanta Falcons. We need a suit. Please don't close on us. Oh, man, never forget it. Yeah, they got me the suit. The tailors stayed. They did everything they needed to do. And I was able to get fitted for a suit, man. Had it for me, got on the plane and flew out the next morning. Yeah, to come down to Atlanta. It was a really cool moment.
You made me emotional talking about
Really,
that, man.
really cool
Wow.
moment. Because you just think of like how long you've been working for something. And even though I had always lived in the moment, it was like, this is crazy. Yeah. My name was just called. And for the longest, even when I got down here, people would say, oh, what do you do? I could not bring myself to say, I play for the Atlanta Falcons. Like, I'm in the NFL.
Yeah.
I would make things up. It's like, I work for UPS. Or, I could not bring myself to say
How
that.
come? Could you not believe it? Or you might be afraid it's going to be taken away? Why would you not tell people?
Because one, it definitely sounded really weird to me to be able to say that. And it was almost surreal, to say that. Two, sometimes I felt like it came off as bragging, and I didn't want to,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was just it, man. It took me a while to be able to say that.
So you were 22, 23?
22. 22. Yep. And then I figured out I could say, oh, well, I work with the Atlanta Falcons.
Very true.
Yep.
Very true.
And then when they would ask in what capacity, then I got stuck.
On the field? I work with the field? I don't. Right. I'm associated with the ball and the other team, things like that. Wow, man. So they got you out there the next day.
Yeah, I was out there the next day. Now, obviously, I didn't stay, but I had to go meet the coaches, meet Mr. Blank, shake hands, photo ops, the whole nine. Man. But yeah.
Man, so you were thrust into a whole different world.
Different world, man.
So let's keep going from there. So you get drafted to the Falcons. Do they? How does that work contract-wise?
Yeah.
Deal like, do they sign you to a multi-year deal? How does that work?
Yeah. So I had an agent before the draft.
Okay.
And the way that it worked then, and I think it kind of works the same way now. It's all slotted. So if you're the first pick, you're going to make between this, and then it just goes right. So your first day. People normally they get signed last because it's like your first round, first few picks, they got this. Your last round, they get this, and then they kind of find everything that falls in between, right? So as it was getting closer, it was like, hey, second round, guys, he got this, Brian, this guy got this, so we know you're gonna fall between here, But that contract, all that stuff, it gets worked out, but obviously before the season, you try to get it done before the season. But yeah, again, living in the moment, man. But when I first got they're like, come on in, sign your contract. I was like, signing an NFL contract.
How'd that feel? I know, because like you get drafted, but then when you sign, it's legally official. How'd that feel?
Legally official. Man, it was amazing. I took a picture, I sent it. I think actually I still have it. My first NFL contract, I still have it. Yeah, it's at home.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from that moment, when does training camp start?
Training camp normally, so they just started, right? No. This is OTAs. Training camp normally starts in the end of July.
Okay.
Yep.
You're drafted
middle end of July.
April?
April.
April.
Yep. So you have to come down and you do off-season things, right? You get to meet your rookie teammates and you start training. And a lot of the vets, though, they're on their own schedule, and you don't come together until I want to say it's right about now. I don't remember the schedule, but yeah. But it's a lot of like, this is what we do. I was down here in a hotel, an apartment. You know, they put you in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is my job now. And you're kind of prepared for it because instead of in college, get up, work out, you have football. You have classes, right? From 8 to 2, taking all different types of classes to graduate. And then you go to football practice. Well, in the pros, you get up, you work out. Now you have meetings. So I call it 400 level football courses that you're taking, and then practice. So same type thing.
Yeah.
But when you were done, and this was a really big thing for me, in college, you did everything together. So when you got finished practicing, you would go and you would eat together, and you would do, your study hall together. Well, in the pros, man, these are grown men. They were going home to their families.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have a family. Like, I'm just going home, and I guess I don't know what I'll play Madden or something. I don't know. Yeah.
So just hang out. So
that's right.
What were the biggest differences you noticed immediately of like, man, this is not like college, even before the year started? Was there any big differences?
Yeah, no, it was just that these are some grown men.
Yeah.
These are some grown men. And it was really cool seeing some of the guys that maybe you had watched when you were younger. So our very first preseason game was against Green Bay. And that was the first time it hit me. It was like, man, I'm standing in the tunnel and the fire and the smoke is coming out and they're introducing the Atlanta Falcons. And you go running out and there is Brett Favre with the shiny Green Bay helmet standing over there. And I was like, dude, that's Brett. Like, again, getting emotional. Like, man, this is crazy. Name is on the back of your jersey. We didn't have that at Penn State. You don't have the names on your back of your jersey. So this was just really cool to me, man. And I got out there for the first time and made my first tackle. And I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's go. I can do this.
Man, I was going to ask, like, how'd that feel to be on the field for the first time? So did you play your first preseason game?
I did.
Wow.
I did. Yep.
As a rookie too.
As a rookie, man. And I made a tackle. I was a corner. I made a tackle on Najee Davenport, which is a running back that was at Miami, and he was part of the greatest collegiate team at Miami. So I knew who he was, and I made that tackle, and, my team got hyped because it was a pretty good, solid hit, and they were like, yes. And after the game, one of the coaches came over, and they was like, Bryan, corners don't tackle like that, man. Keep that up.
Wow.
That's cool. Yeah. So it was just a good, very good time. Yeah.
Did you play corner and linebacker too? Did you?
No. So Jordan, I don't know if I'm one of the few people to ever do this. I was drafted as a corner.
Yeah.
And I played the first half of my rookie season as a corner. And then I moved to free safety. So I played my second year at free safety. Then my third year, I moved to strong safety. And then when I left Atlanta, they had me playing a third down linebacker role. That was my fourth year.
Jeez.
So then when I went to Buffalo, years 5, 6, 7, and 8, I was a safety. I just played safety.
Different positions.
And then my last 2 years, that's when I officially made the move and I was a linebacker. So I technically started those 3 positions, corner, safety, and linebacker. And I say it was less about me and more about how the game just changed, right? It was just my body type just happened to fit the mold. I went from being one of the largest corners in the league, 219 pound corner, really big corner.
Yeah, corners are not big.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, there were guys in our room who were like 175, 180 pounds, right?
Yeah.
219 pounds as a corner. And then still a really decent size safety.
Yeah.
And then towards the tail end of my career, being one of the smallest linebackers and I only put on 5, 8 pounds, So I finished playing. I was less than 230 pounds. I never put on a lot of weight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Who were some of, like, when you think back, who were some tough matchups for you where you're in the game and you're like,
yeah,
man, I'm going to have to, like, you always got to show out today, but man, this guy, he'll run over me if I'm not careful.
Well, I mean, that was every week. It didn't matter who it was.
Yeah.
That's every week, man. But when you think of some of the running backs that we went up against, so Mike Allstott, he was this huge running back down in Tampa. Sean Alexander, great running back.
Seahawks, right?
Seahawks. Yep. I mean, the list goes on, man. Every week you were going up against somebody that was just like, dude, they are legit. One of the the first time we played against the Vikings, and Randy Moss was on the team, and it was Culpepper was the quarterback. They would say, look, don't let him break your cushion. Yeah. He has this extra gear. And when that ball goes up, you're in trouble.
Don't get mossed.
And man, of course, got mossed. Yeah. Yet I was in the back pedal in the middle of the field, backpedaling, and I saw Randy do this going down the sideline. And he was running with one of the at the time, D'Angelo Hall, one of the faster guys on our team from Virginia Tech. Man, Randy put up his hand, ran by D'Angelo. Me and D'Angelo are running. He just catches it over his shoulder in the end zone. We just got mossed. It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now you are playing at the highest level. With the best people.
That's right.
And you made a comment earlier. These men, you're not going to take food off their families.
That's right.
Like this is their livelihood.
This is their livelihood.
And those guys are out to kill you.
That's right.
That's
right.
That's incredible. What was your game day routine like?
Oh man, at this point I don't remember. No. I'll tell you towards the tail end of my career. So I would always get up early, go, and we would have pregame meal. I always ate pretty much the same thing. If it was an early game, it consisted of pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon. If it was a later game, it was like chicken and rice and broccoli, And when I got to the locker room later in my career, I went from being that guy that would have on his headphones and just kind of in the moment, right? At the time, 8 Mile was coming out when I was my rookie year, and Lose Yourself was almost like one of my go-tos.
Yeah.
And I would just listen to it, you only got one shot to not miss. Got one shot to not miss. That was just it for me. But as I got older, I enjoyed watching other people get ready for the game.
Wow.
Because you had guys that they would sit back in their locker room with headphones on and maybe a towel over their head, and all you saw was them just, moving to the music, whatever they were listening to. You had guys that they could not sit still, so they were in the locker room like, trying to make moves, whatever it was for the game. Yep. You had guys that maybe they weren't dressing for the game, and so we would always have like a snack table of oranges, and they were just eating all the snacks because they weren't dressing out. You had guys that were so anxious they were running to the bathroom every 5-10 minutes. I just thought it was really interesting how everybody is getting ready for this game, and it's in different ways. Other guys that were flipping through their notes last minute, like, okay, hey, test me on this. Hey, ask me if they come out and 11 personnel 3-by-1, what are we expecting on third down and short? So it was just interesting to me, man. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a memorable, probably rookie season, like a welcome to the NFL moment where you're like, wow, I just got cooked, or I just got whooped in practice, or it just reminded me like, okay, I'm a rookie.
This is the league.
Yeah, this is the league.
Not to say that it didn't happen, because it did, and probably more times than I wanted it to. But I really tried to have a short memory, man, and just like, hey, move on to the next. Move on to the next. Yeah. There was a game, we were playing the Carolina Panthers, and I don't think it was my rookie year. It might have been my second year, where Steve Smith, great receiver, and a little guy. I mean, he's not a big guy at all. He caught this little catch in front of me, and I went to tackle him, and man, he threw me a stiff arm to my chest. I was like, ugh. And he got away from me, and it was it might have been like a 40-yard, 50-yard touchdown. And I just remember thinking like, dang, how did he get like, ugh?
Yeah.
But I was like, this is the league, man. Like, gosh.
It's the NFL.
Yeah.
It's the NFL. I always tell people, because I'm a big NBA fan and NFL and just sports in general, and I try to tell people, you are playing with the best of the best from everywhere.
That's
any guy on the field was the man in his hometown.
Oh, for sure.
The same way you were
for sure.
in Pennsylvania. It's like,
that's
hey,
right.
There's no bad professional athletes.
There is no bad.
And if they make a mistake, on that note,
yeah.
I'm really starting to see how your psyche works. A lot of times watching NFL, it's much easier for the defense to get cooked than it is for the offense. So, like,
Right.
you can knock a ball down. Let's say a defensive
yeah.
player knocks a ball down.
Yep.
But if a guy catches a touchdown over you,
Yep.
you're going to be all over highlights.
That's right.
Mentally,
Yeah.
how do you just keep pushing through?
I mean, that's just the game. Defensive players, we're very reactive. Like, you act on offense, I'm going to react, and I need to react faster than you make your second move,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but you just don't think about it. I don't know. I just never thought about
Do
it.
coaches help with that? Like, is there criticism after the game? Because, man, again, you're playing against a professional
Yeah.
athlete. And personally, I think defense is harder than offense.
Oh, no question.
It's
No
just,
question.
you don't know where a guy's going to go. And if you
Yeah.
got someone like Randy Moss on you,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
step, he's gone.
Yep.
How does that work with coaching and I guess
Yeah.
mentally? Because you want to balance like critiquing someone, but not like blowing their flame out.
Yeah. Well, I think the balance is number one. So when you talk about studying the game, being a student of the game, and you try to limit, so out of like, we'll say 10 options of what you can do as a receiver, because of where you aligned before the ball was snapped, I've already taken away, if I can take away 60% of that. So I'm like, okay, he's not doing that, right? And then because of down and distance, now I can take away another 2 or 3 options. And if I can bring it down to, okay, he's going to do one of 2 things. You can just start to play faster,
I see.
right? And that's just being a student of the game. And as a coach, you have to, the best coaches to me, yes, you're talking about X's and O's in football, but still, how do you equate that into life? And I will still say that some of the best coaches from Pop Warner, I had a coach, my first and only female football coach, Coach Sue Clark, still love her to this day. We stay in contact.
Wow.
Just life lessons. And I can tell you from that, my high school coach, collegiately, obviously Coach Paterno, and then even at the pro level, they found ways to relate to guys that, because you're coaching young men.
Yeah.
I'm 22 years old. In the grand scheme of things, I'm a kid, right? So how do you coach them to try to help them be better, but also you don't want to deflate them. You don't want to take away their confidence. Always build them up, man. But I've been around some coaches that, yeah, they'll chew into you and all they're doing is just pushing you down. It's like, nah. But again, these are things that I started to pay attention to as I got older.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
When you reflect, what's a great memory that sticks out where you're like, man, that play, I hold that in my heart near and dear. Anything that sticks out. This is a time, you don't have to brag, but I'd like to know. One
Not
sticks out in my
bragging,
mind.
man.
I've looked up some
Not
of your
bragging.
highlights.
No, so 2 come to mind.
Yeah.
One, it was just a preseason game, but I think it was our second preseason game. And I happened to pick up a fumble recovery and scored a touchdown in the Georgia Dome. And that was really cool because I went from playing primarily offense in high school to defense in college, and I never scored in college. So to get in the end zone again, I was like, man, this is really cool. And it was really early on in my NFL career.
That's awesome.
But some of the highlights, what's fun now to just think back on is I picked off Tom Brady.
I got it right here.
Yeah. And what's interesting is I looked up when Tom was about to retire. I was up one night for whatever reason. I'm like in bed and couldn't sleep. And I was like, who picked off Tom the most? And I researched it. And I don't remember who it is, but there's 2 people that's tied that picked him off 3 times. And I got him twice and I dropped one. I was like, man, I could have been tied for picking off Tom.
Wow. What was that like? I mean, you're playing against, I think probably the greatest quarterback of all time.
For sure.
And, you picked it off. How'd that,
for sure. Again, you don't think about it, living in the moment, man.
Mm.
And this was a game, we were in Buffalo. The Patriots were already up like 21-0 in the first half. They were going down to score again and picked Tom off in the red zone. And that actually sparked something. And then we ended up picking him off 4 times that game. And we came back and won. And it was like, you would have thought we won the Super Bowl in Orchard Park because we hadn't beat the Patriots. It had been a really long time. And yeah, man, it was really cool feeling. But again, just living in the moment, like, let's go.
So again, coming back to this, and I'm going to keep coming to it, but it's like you'll pick them off, but you won't let that get to your head during the game.
No.
You'll just get excited. You get the pick. You keep moving.
Get excited. You
playing.
keep moving. Keep playing. And after that one, my second year when I had scored that touchdown preseason, so it didn't even count, right? Didn't even go in the stat line. we are playing against Cincinnati, and now I'm well into my career. I'm with Buffalo. I think it was either year 9 or 10. And there was this play where quarterback drops back, he goes to throw it, he fumbles it, and I picked it up and I got in the end zone. Touchdown. But the ref called it dead. Because he called it dead, it was like no review. It wasn't like my touchdown was nullified. It didn't count.
Oh.
And I was like, you gotta be kidding. I finally got in the end zone and this is what happened. Jordan, the next series, had an interception and ran it back to the house. And I was like, yeah, come on, let's go. Let's go. Today's my day.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's so special. So it's like the ups and downs. Bad thing happens, good thing happens.
That's right.
And you just keep
That's
going.
right. You just keep going, man. You just keep going. That's life.
Yeah.
That is life. Yeah.
What now on the other side, football is a very physical sport.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the days after games, because I've heard people describe like you feel like you're getting hit by a truck.
Yep.
And did you deal with any injuries during your career? Because you played for 10. I mean, 10 years is a long time in the NFL.
It is.
How'd you handle your body? What'd you go through?
Early in my career, Mondays I'd wake up and whatever. You go to the facility, work out, watch film. Didn't faze me.
Yeah.
Towards the middle and the end of my career, you play on Sunday. When you wake up on Monday, it was like, man, Monday recovery, trying to figure it out. Tuesday recovery, Wednesday recovery. By year 10, I would not be ready until like Friday. I'm like, man, my body still hurts.
Yeah.
You know. But you would try to do all the little things to take care of yourself, man. And I was a firm believer in that. I tried to not really go out too much when it was during the season. Try to eat clean, you know, get the rest that you need. I got into the hyperbaric chamber, you know, got one of those. It was just, look, this is what I do and how can I take care of myself? So I was really big on that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want people to know that because I think a lot of times like they only see people play on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're an NFL player. Your life must be great. You can do whatever you want. Like,
they see the glitz and the glamour, but they don't see the grit and the grind.
No.
They don't see all of that stuff that goes into it afterwards, man. And especially some of those injuries. You asked about injuries.
Yeah.
I've had multiple surgeries, rotator cuff, labrum on the shoulder, 2 knee surgeries on one on the other, broken fingers, fractured ankle, you know, concussions out the yin-yang, fractured skull. I mean, and they don't see the kind of stuff that you have to go through to get yourself ready, and not just physically ready to play, but mentally as well. Yeah. You know? Yeah, people don't see that. So I admire any profession. If you are at the top, you're doing a lot behind closed doors to be able to perform.
It's your life.
Yeah.
It's your life. Yeah. Anywhere. Sports, music, creativity, movies, doesn't
Everything.
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Medicine.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't
if
matter.
you're at the top,
Yep.
you're dedicated to it.
I respect that, man. Yeah.
Talking about switching over to the financial side, I know anytime someone gets at the top, you get auntie from 3 cousins removed, you get people you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate that?
Yeah.
And then what advice would you give to other people
Yeah.
that are like, it doesn't even have to be sports, but that just have hit a success level that people know about.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, a lot of salaries are posted.
It's all posted.
So how'd you deal with it?
It is all posted. First, I can say this, man. Coming from a family to where you were not the sole breadwinner, and I never felt like I had to take care of my immediate family, right? Dad is successful in what he does. Mom's right there. Sister, she went to college, grad school, great career. Brother, same type thing. So it was like, man, if anybody needs help, for sure, I will help out. But I never felt as though it all fell back on me. Second thing, I did have a problem saying no. I told you that early on, even when I was in high school, having a problem saying no. But you learn very quickly, no, you have to say no, and you can't save the world. And what other people's agendas are, that doesn't mean that it's your agenda, right? Yes, you make the mistake of maybe helping people that I probably shouldn't have. But I heard, I forget who it was, a radio personality say, hey, I emit for my family, like I make the most money. So when people come to me, number one, I never loan out money that I expect back. Like I will give it to you. I'm not going to loan it out. And 2, if I give it to you and it's out there, don't come back and ask for anything else, especially if you say you're going to pay it back.
Yeah.
Now, I've given it to you, not telling you, I'm giving it to you. Like you'll say, can I loan something? Okay, here's $5. I'm loaning it to you, right?
Yeah.
Just make that number. So you think it's a loan, but in my mind, I've given it to you. And if you do give it back, then one of two things. One, I'll look at what you're doing and I'll say, no, you know what? I want you to keep it. Thank you for offering it back to me. Or two, it's, man, thank you for giving it back because now you're allowing me to bless somebody else.
Yeah.
So if you don't give it, and that's what it is. But if you say you were going to give something back and you didn't, don't come and ask me for something else, man. Yeah.
That's good advice, man. That's really good advice because it's hard to say no,
It is hard to say no.
when you care about someone, you want to love someone, and you
That's
have a
right.
giving heart.
That's right.
And
That's right.
yeah,
Man, and I'll tell you, yes, people come out of the woodworks, and especially it's hard when it's like, man, my phone bill, man, my car's getting repoed, man, I can't pay my mortgage, man, I'm getting kicked out of school. You do a lot, but again, honestly, when I think back, and it's like, nah, I've helped a lot of people, and unfortunately, there were probably some relationships lost over that. But if you know me in my heart, man, I'd give you my shirt off of my back, and if I said no, then that means I really had to say no. Like it was what it was. Yeah.
Now, how did you and who did you surround yourself with over your career to really set yourself up for success for when you were leaving? Because it sounds like, you were smart with your money, you were smart with where you spent your time. Did you have mentors? Like, who did you surround yourself with?
Yeah. No, honestly, I think you really try to surround yourself with good people and people that have done it the right way. Man, I go back to my family. It was just a strong base, man. I go back to the family, there are some people that I can say I got involved with that you think they can be your mentors and do things the right way. And it's like, oh man, that was a bad decision, as well. But again, when I say it either works out or it works out. And my dad would always say, look, if you lose some money, don't sit there and cry over it. It is what it is. Like, don't think about it. If you make an investment and that investment goes bad, one, invest what you can lose. And if it doesn't work out, man, okay, that one didn't work. Like, it is what it is.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart. So, drafted by the Falcons.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? You were at Falcons 3 years or 4 years?
3 years. Yeah.
Then where to?
3 years. And then traded to the Saints.
Traded the Saints. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Saints for how long?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year in New Orleans, yeah.
And then where else after that?
And so briefly was in Tennessee for an off season.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Buffalo for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
I don't want to say favorites because they're all different. Which ones kind of stick out to you? And how are the relationships now looking back with these teams? Because I know I see you with the Falcons still.
So this is not politically correct, but when I tell you all of them mean something to me.
Yeah.
Because again, in the moment, why I was there, and the Falcons gave me my first opportunity into the league, man. They drafted me, forever grateful for Mr. Blank, Coach Dan Reeves, and just the entire organization. And there's lessons that I learned while being with that organization that I call them aha moments. It's like, man, this is something that I'm going to apply to life.
Yeah.
So really grateful for the Falcons. When I got traded and I got to New Orleans, it was the year after Hurricane Katrina. There was nowhere to live. I mean, as I was flying into the city, and first, let me tell you how I got traded too, by the way. So during the off season, got up one morning, getting ready to go to the facility. I get a call from my agent. Like, I had gotten in the car, turned on the car. My agent called. Hey, Eddie, what's going on, man? B. Scott, what you doing? About to head to this Falcon facility to get this workout in, man. How are you? Man, I'm good, but hold tight because you're on the trade block. I'm on the what? On the trade block. I'll call you back in 2 minutes. Click. Hangs up. I turn off the car. I go inside. I sit on my steps. And he calls back maybe a minute and a half later. He was like, all right, the trade just went through. You got traded to the Saints for Wayne Gandy and a draft pick. They just brought in Coach Sean Payton as their head coach. And you guys have a mini camp tomorrow. So your flight is out tonight. We know you'll do a great job. Go and just do what you always do, man. And, make yourself proud, make us proud. I hung up the phone. I was like, what? What? So then I called him back and I said, hey, what about my stuff? They're like, oh, they're boxing it up as we speak. It'll probably beat you there. But yeah, I packed a couple of things, man. and I headed to the airport, got on a flight, and I'm thinking like, what in the world? And of all places, New Orleans, like the hurricane just came through here. It's nothing
Yeah.
but devastation. And as I'm flying in, you see the lines on the buildings, those black lines on the building, and it's the watermark.
Yeah.
And you're thinking like this whole area was underwater during the hurricane. And so that again, tough moment. But it's like, man, look, I'm here. And this is enemy lines.
Oh,
I
man.
played for the rival in the division. So anybody that got chippy with our team, it's like, man, now I'm your team. Hey guys, knock knock. will you accept me as part? But that's the way the league works, man. You can be not messing with somebody, playing against them, but then you get traded. And now, listen, we have the same agenda, and we need to figure this out.
Did you have any
Yeah.
idea you were up for trades?
None.
Just so
None. None. Jordan, that's what hit me so hard because it was like
business.
a week before I had sat down with the defensive coordinator and position coach, and they were like, no, Bryan, you're part of our plans to build this defense. And then it was a trade. But, you think back on it, and there's a whole nother business side of things. Like when you're a player, you're not thinking about that. The business side, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Players get traded all the time. It just is what it is. But yeah, being that 1 year in New Orleans, it was really cool because one, we were winning. Drew Brees, it was his first year in New Orleans. Coach Payton, we had drafted.
What year is this?
2006.
Okay.
We had drafted Reggie Bush. We ended up making it all the way to the NFC Championship game and lost to the Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if we won that, we would have went to the Super Bowl. But again, aha moments, man, that happened to me in that place. Because I know you asked me, what's your favorite, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how much time we have, but I can
We
share
got
some
as
of
much
those.
as you want.
Man, I can share some of those aha moments. So
Tell me, please.
the first one in Atlanta, my rookie year, we have a training camp. We would have training camp at Furman. And rookie hazing that goes on. Rookie hazing, it can be a bunch of different things, but this one wasn't bad. It was you had to wait to get out of the cold tub. Once like the vets would come in after practice, get in the cold tub, and the rookies had to wait. So we're at Furman's campus, and we waited for the vets. They got in, they got out. Then the rookies got in. There was like 6 of us. I don't know. Mr. Blank comes in, and he comes over to us, and he's like, man, we're really glad to have you guys here, part of the organization. He starts looking around. He's like, man, this floor is really wet. And he goes over to the corner, and he grabs a mop, and he starts mopping the floor. And we're looking at each other like, what is he doing? He's a billionaire, and there are so many interns here. Mm-hmm. We're not even at the Falcon facility. We're up at Furman University. Why is he doing this? And you stay in the cold tub not too long. So it was like 5 minutes in, went, showered. 30, 45 minutes later, I'm walking back through to leave, and I see Mr. Blank finishing up. He had hit the entire training room, and he's putting the mop back where he got it from. And that aha moment, I was like, here's a guy, and he says this, there's nothing below him, beneath him, above him. He will do whatever it takes to lock arms to make sure that this organization is successful. And it's the true essence of this man because there's no cameras, there's no social media, there's nothing. And I don't think a lot of people witnessed what I just witnessed. Yeah. But that was just an aha moment, and continue to live life that way. And so that was that. When I got to New Orleans, and so because I got traded and how I got traded, I had circled it on my calendar to say, here's when we're playing the Falcons. The Falcons are coming to us. And it was the 3rd game of the season, Monday Night Football. The Superdome is just reopening.
Prime time, baby.
Prime time. And everyone in the world wanted to see, because again, the year before, the Saints had to move to a different city to play because of the hurricane, right? So this was the reopening of the Superdome. And the Falcons are coming to town. Man, I can't wait. I had it circled. I had a hamstring injury during the preseason, and I was running with the one defense on 3rd down packages, right? When passing plays, I'm on the field.
Yeah.
And so I said, whatever it takes, I'm going to have my hamstring right. Like I am playing in this game because I see a big moment happening. 3rd play of the game. It's 3rd down, right? B. Scott, get out there. Go run on the field. Like, man, I've been waiting for this moment. Mike Vick takes the snap, and he rolls to his left. Scott Fajita on our team, was a linebacker, comes from behind Mike and kind of like knocks the ball out of his hands. And so Mike fumbles it. And the ball is rolling towards the sideline. And it's me, the ball, the end zone is down that way. And I was like, this is it. This was that time. I'm running towards the football. I go down to pick it up, and I pull my hamstring, and I kick the ball out of bounds. It's third down. I was like, man, I just blew it. That was my opportunity. The next play, fourth down, the Falcons now have to punt. It's fourth down. A guy by the name of Steve Gleason comes around, and he blocks the punt. And we end up scoring off of Steve's blocked punt. At the time, I'm happy for the team.
Yeah.
Man, Superdome is going crazy. But I pulled my hamstring, and I was done for the rest of the game. That was it. I missed, like, I don't know, however many more games after that. And I kept kicking myself. I was like, B, that was your play to make. That was your play to make. That's all they showed on SportsCenter over and over again was Steve blocking this punt because it was like the rebirth of this city. It was a huge, historic, iconic moment. Steve now has ALS, and they have a statue of him in front of the stadium blocking the punt. And I said, B. Scott, that was never your play to make. That was not your moment. That was Steve's moment. And I'm so glad that he had that moment. That was not your play. So stop beating yourself up because I carried that for the longest. Man. But once I had that realization, brother, it was like, no, it wasn't for you. That wasn't for you. You know, and yeah. But just again, aha moment. And so my takeaway was what's for you is for you. And if things don't work out for you, it's okay. Because that means it's working out for someone else, which is totally fine.
How many years later was that statue made?
It was made so I was there 2006, and I think they put it up probably 2010, 2010, something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, that gives me chills thinking about that.
Yeah.
But it was, and you're right, it was his time.
It was his time. So proud, yes.
Man.
Yeah, but I'll say that ate at me.
Yeah.
That really, really ate at me. Yeah.
But it's another example, man. I can't thank you enough for sharing all these stories because it's just for people listening to know, like, you don't know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who you're helping.
That's right.
You don't know who this is for. You don't know what your time is.
That's right.
You don't know.
That's right.
You know,
Yep.
For all you know, man, if your hamstring hadn't been pulled, the next play, it could have been a more serious injury.
It could have. Yeah.
There's all different ways.
You don't know. All different ways to look at it, man. All different ways to look at it.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you're at the New Orleans Saints. You're there for 1 year. Walk me through the rest of that season and then being traded to the next team.
Yeah. So after that 1 year, I spent most of that year hurt. I pulled my hamstring. And so I really made sure I dove into the community, man. And again, really cool, going to schools, going to different, community events. There was a lady, I was in the grocery store, and a lady came up to me and she was like, because I had on something Saints. She said, "You play for the New Orleans Saints." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I do." And she said, "No, don't cover that up." She said, "Thank you." And she started tearing up. And I said, "Thank you for what?" I said, "I haven't done anything. I've been hurt most of the year." She said, No, you don't get it. She said, "Football here, it's a way of life." She said, "I think back to the memories of me going to the games with my dad, who's no longer with me. And for 3 hours every Sunday, it takes me to a place that I forget that I lost everything in the hurricane. Like I'm living in a trailer outside of my home as it gets put back together. And you guys are winning. You're bringing so much joy to this city. So thank you." And so to me, it was just, man, this is bigger than the game, So I really enjoyed my time there. And it's just going back to the question you asked, what team did I like the best? Falcons, Saints, right? And so I say it's not politically correct. They each mean something to me. Mm-hmm. And after that 1 year in New Orleans and deciding to leave, and that was tough because I really did enjoy the city. I liked the coaching staff. I liked everything that they were doing. When I got to Buffalo, it was, and again, I'm in Buffalo. Well, let me rewind for a second. Yeah. after I was in New Orleans, I signed a free agent deal with Tennessee. And when I got to Tennessee, I was thinking, man, I was unrestricted free agent. It was probably the only time that I've thought, man, I've arrived. Like I'm here. I signed a deal. I signed a contract. And there was a couple of different reasons as to why it didn't work out. One of the reasons was there was a lot of injuries, and they were like, man, Bryan, we actually have to convert some people over to get through. But Coach Fisher, he told me, he was like, but I think we're gonna let you go. And I think you're gonna sign on with another team. But if you don't, we want to bring you back after week 1. It's like, oh, okay. So week 1, I was at home for the first time in my career. That was the first time that I had ever been released, didn't make a team, right? Because when you're younger, I made the varsity team. Like, I never got cut from a team.
Yeah.
So I was thinking on that drive home from Nashville back to Atlanta, like, man, this could be it. My first time, like somebody said, you weren't good enough to make this team, So I spent week 1 at home watching the games, and then Buffalo called, my agent called right after the games on Sunday. Hey, Buffalo just had 3 people in the secondary go down. They want to bring you up to Buffalo for a workout. Pack your bags. You're leaving tomorrow morning, right? So flew out on Monday, did my workout on Tuesday.
How long was that after the release?
So the release happened right before week 1,
Okay.
right? And so I was at home watching week 1 from the couch. And then it was a Sunday game. Sunday games are going on. I got the call Sunday night because they had guys go down. So they set up the flights for you to fly out Monday so you can be there so you can work out on Tuesday. Right. And I did that, took a little bag with me when worked out. There was 10 people that I was working out against. And again, I'm just thinking like, man, let me just do the best that I can do. And they sat me down. They were like, hey, we want to sign you. We're not letting you leave. And I signed. So I stayed in Buffalo and I was there, But again, I was like, man, I'm in Buffalo, New York. It's cold. It's
very different from Atlanta.
Very different from Atlanta. I'm now really far from my family. I'm not in the South anymore.
Yeah.
But man, I fell in love with the city, with the fans, and the simplicity of it all. Like in Buffalo, you go to the grocery store, you live next door to people, like nobody bothers you. You're not thinking like New York City or you have to be separated from everybody. It is such a great place.
Yeah.
And and the coaching staff there, man, they really started teaching life lessons. The one that I share a lot is Coach Chan Gailey. While he was there, so one year we were getting ready to play the Patriots, and he came into the team meeting room and he was like, wrote up on the board. He's like, what's your why? People ask that all the time. What's your why in life? But he said, no, I want to challenge everyone in this room. Like, I'm just curious, what is your why? Why are you guys doing what you do? Like, what motivates you to get up out of bed? He said, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's all personal. And I know for some of you, you wanted to become a household name. Well, there's some of you in this room that you can't go anywhere in the world without somebody recognizing who you are. You're a household name.
Yeah.
Why are you still doing what you do? For some of you, it was because you wanted to make money. Everyone in this room is making a lot of money, relatively speaking, a lot of money. Yeah. Why are you still doing what you're doing? He said, so I challenge you to have something that is never truly attained, that you have to work for all the time. And I thought about it and I was like, man, I think I've always known this, but now it's, again, I pinpointed it. To me, it was always my family. I don't remember where I was, what I did, but I was a kid and my dad said to me, son, I'm proud of you. And that struck a chord. I was like, I love that feeling. And so I know if it's my family, if it's my wife, my kids, to hear that, man, I'm really proud of you. Because it's something that can be taken away from you at any time, at any moment. I can do something and they're like, man, I'm really disappointed in that, And so trying to live life to have that validation, man, to get that was my why. So again, just another life lesson, aha moment that it's bigger than football, that now that those days are behind me, Jordan, I'll be 10 years out of the league this year. I played for 10 years. I'll be out 10 years this year. And there's hopefully a lot of life left.
Yep.
But I'm taking those moments, those aha moments, and I can apply them now to my life. So, yeah.
I love that, man. If you could think back over your career, what advice would you give to younger athletes? It doesn't even have to be people that are in NFL and anywhere. what, as someone that has did it for a decade,
Yeah.
succeeded,
Yeah.
has a whole other very successful life post career, what would you tell those athletes?
The first thing is just focus on you. Stop worrying about everything else that's out there. Just focus on what you're doing
Yeah.
and in the moment, and leave no regrets. Like, you know, they talk about that Mamba mentality. And I'll say that's really hard. It's not easy. That is not like Kobe was just wired differently. Everything he did, he either said, if this is not helping me get better, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. That is really tough to do. And I don't expect people to do that. Heck, I struggled. I struggled with that transparently, right? But if you just block out the noise and don't worry about all, like, it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. Don't put that pressure on you. These young athletes right now, they're starting so young to play one sport to say, man, when you're 6, you're thinking, hey, this is what I want to do when I'm, older. It's like, come on, enjoy being a kid. Just enjoy the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice too, especially with social media nowadays.
Yeah.
Man, kids have brands in middle school.
In middle school.
Which on one side is not a bad thing. I like the
Yeah.
NIL deals, but it's okay to not know what you want to do with your life.
That's right.
And it's okay to change.
That's right.
And honestly, that leads me to my next point, which is let's talk about you finishing your career and retiring.
Yeah.
Walk me through that process, because I think stopping anything is challenging.
It is.
What was that like for
It
you?
is. Man, I felt it going into my 11th season. Like, I went through the entire offseason, with the Bills going into my 11th year. And during preseason, it just felt different. I found myself stopping, just like taking these moments of maybe pregame, I was watching the receivers warm up, and I would think like, man, they make that look so easy. Like, run a route, catch, bring it in, man, the quarterback really has a strong arm. Like, things that never really thought about. I was like, man, this is really, really cool. Just stopping and looking around the stadium and all the fans. Like, I was just taking it all in. So when I got released, I went home. I called my trainer. Like, hey, make sure we got to train because the next team that calls want to be ready to go. So I got released. I think it was on a Saturday or a Sunday. Get home, working out early in the week. And, as an athlete, when you're working out, you're training, you get to the point in your workout where it starts to burn, you get tired, but you're like, whatever, you just work through it, you push through.
Yeah.
Well, I stopped, put the weight down. And my trainer was like, B. Scott, what are you doing? I was like, I think I'm done. I think that's it. He was like, done what? Done working out? I was like, no, I think I'm finished playing. I played 10 years. It's kind of crazy, but when I first got in the league, I said I wanted to play 10 years. I wrote that down as my goal.
Wow.
And I played 10 years. I'm now married with kids. Like, I'm ready for whatever's next. And I called my wife. I told her. I called my agent. And that was it. That weekend, we did play the Patriots, season opener. And I went to Buffalo Wild Wings up in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I ordered a tall beer. And I ordered the beer, sat it on the table, and I watched the game. And I had jitters as if I was about to play. I didn't touch the beer. And I watched the whole game. And when the game was over, I just paid my tab, left the beer sitting right there, and I walked out. And that was it. That was the only game I watched that whole season. And then I went through that. Every athlete, I don't care if you've played just in high school, college, professionally, doesn't matter. When your playing days are over, you're going to grieve because a piece of you dies. You die. A piece of you dies. And I went through that. And I went through the whole, the depression and all of that. But it wasn't depression that it took me into a dark place and put me in a dark room. I was an active depressant. I was moving. I was like, man, what can I do now?
Yeah.
I'm rearranging the kitchen. At the house, I fired our pool person. I fired our landscaper. I'm cutting the grass. I'm doing it all.
You had no free time for 10 years.
Man, that's right. And now I do. And I'm driving my wife crazy. And she was like, dude, I get it. But every morning I'm getting up and I'm like, happy Monday. It's 5:30 in the morning. Like, let's go. And she's like, no, this isn't going to work. Like, our marriage isn't going to work. This is what this is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And this was just the transition, man. So I took a year off and then I was like, all right, I need to figure out whatever it is that's next. And I hopped into the business world. because I said Tony Dungy, he has this great quote, and he would say, "Don't let your NFL playing days be the highlight of your obituary, because life goes on." And that, I was like, yeah, there's still a lot of life to live.
I'm glad you said that, because for everybody listening, Bryan and I are part of Business BNI.
Yeah, Business Networking International, yeah.
And Bryan invited me to this community in Alpharetta Success Alliance. It's been life-changing for me already the last 6 weeks. And I had the opportunity to introduce Bryan for his speech last week. And so Bryan sent me his introduction. And you didn't have the NFL in the introduction. Was that intentional?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered why. And you had mentioned it in your speech, but what really stuck out to me was you listed so many things that had nothing to do with football, to the point I was like, yes, all of these are accurate.
Yeah.
You are a singer, you love piano, you love being with your family and friends, you love business, you love helping people, and had nothing to do with football. And I wanted to ask about that. How did you navigate that transition from I am an athlete, when people ask what I do, I played 10 years of the NFL,
right,
to where people probably define you as that, which is how did you process and work through and deal with that, and probably still deal with it today?
Man, you start to define yourself as that, and so that's why I say a piece of you dies when you stop. But what's interesting is football and pro sports, really, when you get fired from your job, like I say, so either when you leave the game or the game leaves you, not too many people can say I left the game. The game ends up leaving them, right? And so you have a bad taste in your mouth. You're like, man, whatever. How they can tell me I'm not good enough to play? I mean, like, that's the ego in you, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm a competitor. What do you mean I'm not good enough? I'm not fast enough, you know? And so for a lot of guys, they try to hide that. Like, if that's on their sleeve, they want to hide that. And it's like, no, I'm not a football player anymore. So I'm not one of those guys that's trying to live in those glory days. But when I played, that's not. And so there was a long time that I really was trying to hide that. Like, if I go into a business meeting, I didn't want to lead with, I'm a football player. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
This is not what you do anymore. Who cares? And it really wasn't until realizing, well, no, that was a moment in time. And it was a great moment in time.
Yeah.
And embrace it. Like, you can always say that's a fun thing that you did, right? That some people will appreciate, some won't, but I appreciate it. Like, but yeah, I just don't like to lead with that.
Yeah.
And even now, what's funny is when I talk to my kids, I'll say, "Hey, do you know what I do?" Like, if somebody says, "What does your dad do?" Do you know what that is? And they're hilarious. I mean,
what do they say?
They all said, "Well, first I say you played football." And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing a good enough job in the business world to say, this is what this is. But yeah, so that's why I just left it out. But even when I go back and I tell my story, then I'll include bits, but it doesn't have to be in the intro all the time.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And I really respected that, because you have built a life for yourself. And I think, man, I'm taking so much from this interview, which is, it was football for you, but take that for anyone else. It could be a career. It could be a hobby. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Everything comes to an end.
It does. No question.
And man, Bryan, I'll tell you, I'll be honest and vulnerable with you. I've really struggled with change throughout my life. When I move, when something that I love ends, it hurts me. It bothers me. I remember when we moved from Florida to Georgia.
Yeah.
I was 6.
Yeah.
I cried the whole 12-hour drive.
Mm.
I didn't want to do anything new. I wanted to stay. When I went to my school and I had to leave and change schools, I wouldn't get out of the car the first day. They had to physically remove me in 3rd grade. I was crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
And even for me with my sports, I shared with you my journey about my back health.
Yeah. Yep.
When I realized I wasn't going to compete in martial arts again at the level I wanted, I had to grieve. I had to grieve. And it's, we had on a guest, I think episode 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And they wrote a book on grief. And it's funny, man, I did not want to do this interview. I ended up getting wrapped up into the interview through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
His mom came on the show and I did it for her, and I didn't want to do it. And I told them this afterwards. I said, I want you to know I didn't want to do this interview because I didn't want to talk about grief. Who wants to
Yeah.
talk
Who
about
wants
grief?
to talk about it? Yeah.
The biggest thing I learned from that book was that grief is not just when you lose someone. It's when something that you love is
That's right.
taken
It's taken.
or ends.
That's right.
And what it showed me was you have to grieve. And if
Yeah.
you don't grieve, you're going to be in
Yeah.
pain
Yep.
pretty much forever
Yep.
until you grieve.
Yeah.
And even when you do process grief,
Yeah.
you're still going to feel that pain, but it's a
Mhm.
healthier pain.
Yep.
And I'm curious for you, you mentioned grief. Was there anything specific you did to help with your grieving? Was it you got into another hobby,
Mhm.
athletics, sports, you took some time off? How did you help process that grief?
Yeah. I, honestly, I didn't realize I was going through it. My wife didn't know that I was going through it. My wife's not a football fan at all.
Really?
Not at all.
So she didn't care what
Not
you were
at
doing.
all. So when I told her that I got released from Buffalo and was coming home, her first response, she said, "Oh, good. Now we can finally start our lives." Yeah. And since then, though, when we went back, remember I told you I reached back out to the league and we went to this program called the Bridge to Success program. And that's how I got connected into Target. Well,
Yep.
that was a really great time away because it was my wife and I. We went and they had these breakout sessions and it really talked about what guys go through when they leave the league. And after that first day, it was a long day. We went back up to the hotel room and we sat down and she said, "I'm so sorry because when you got released, that was my first thing that I said to you. Oh, good. Now we can move on with our lives." Not realizing how it was going to affect you, not realizing how it was going to affect the kids, not realizing how it can affect your parents, your brother, like, because everyone's all connected to that. Like it's a certain world that it's like, yeah, my brother does this, or and that's now done. So she apologized for that. So when they said that and they talked about the different types of depression, and we thought back, it was like, man, Bryan was really going through it. But that's what I did. I tried to stay as busy as possible, because I was an active guy. I wasn't retreating back. And that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah.
And I think just generally speaking, when it comes to grief, that's interesting. I need to go now and listen to your episode on grief because I think the way that I deal with it is I'm so full of gratitude knowing that, well, it happened. And I'm so thankful for getting a chance to experience it and keeping the mentality that whatever is next, I'm going to pull off of those lessons and it's going to help me into my next chapter.
Yeah.
So even though that season is now over, whatever it is, I can take with me to continue on. And whether it's losing someone or, job ending, whatever that is. So I want to listen to that episode, man.
It's
for sure.
Please do, man. It's heavy, but it's beautiful and it pushed
Yeah.
me and it really had an impact on me. And it just, that's stuff I've dealt with, but it I don't know who said this, what quote, but don't be sad that it's over, be glad that
Be
it
glad
happened.
that it happened. Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's tough, man.
Yeah. Oh, I can,
tough.
man, I can imagine. And moving. So you said, and I get it at the
Oh,
time.
you moved
like
a lot,
that is your world, right? And you moved and losing your friends and all of that stuff. After that first move to New Orleans, when it was like overnight, and I couldn't even imagine when it's like, man, if I was married with kids at the time, because I wasn't, imagine where it's like, hey, daddy's gone, daddy has to go. But you think of you're in the military getting deployed, like daddy's gone or mommy's gone, gotta go.
Yeah.
I really just try to keep things in perspective, man, which I've also been told that might not be the best thing because if you're, to keep things in perspective, that means you have to compare it to something else.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just how I deal with it. Yeah.
Well, I think you said it right there. That's how you deal with it. And I just think it's good. I really appreciate you being so honest and vulnerable because again, before the episode started, everyone, I was telling Bryan how the show works. And I said, the main goal is just to break down barriers because we judge each other.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
You see someone, you're like, oh, someone would see you like, clearly you're in good shape. So clearly you do some type of athletics. And they hear, oh, he was an NFL player. And they'll pass judgments. Oh, I bet he's made all this, like, oh, I bet life was easy. He's just a professional athlete, all this stuff. It was like, no, man, listen to this man's story.
Yeah.
But more than that is, you look at you and you're like, strong man that's been successful, they would never think you go through any of this. But the fact that you're talking about grief,
Yeah.
talking about depression, you go through these things.
Yeah.
But you're on the other side and there is
Yeah.
another path. And I think my biggest takeaway for people is, hey,
Yeah.
don't give up.
Don't. Yeah.
Just, it's okay to stop. It's
Yeah.
okay to take a step back. It's okay to
Mhm.
cry, scream, yell, talk
Yeah.
to people, be angry. Just don't give up
Yeah.
at anything. At anything. You
Man.
can't give up on
Take
yourself.
advantage of your opportunities. Take the shot when it's given to you. Live in the moment.
Yeah.
For sure. And yeah, because being completely transparent, to think of what is life like in 10 years. So one of my biggest concerns, and I've had so many concussions, and I don't know what that looks like from a brain health standpoint.
Yeah.
I've had those moments of not being able to remember anything, and there are still moments of my life where I'm like, man, I don't remember that. We'll have family gatherings, and they'll say, yeah, bro, I remember, that big birthday party that I threw for someone, and remember you had like the limos come pick them up, and it's like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, talk me through it. I don't remember.
Mm.
So that's why I just think it's so important to live in this moment, man, because who knows what's going to happen. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
we don't. And
Yeah,
all we've
we
got is
don't.
this moment.
That's it.
And
That's
going
it.
back to the theme, really the theme of this episode is be living in the moment when
Ah.
you're going through this stuff, because
Yeah.
I think that'll produce what you're looking for. And
Mhm.
that's all we have.
Yeah.
That's all we have.
That's right.
So after you retired and you went into the business world, so kind of navigating through that, you were at Target, and
Yeah.
then when did Noeen happen?
Yeah.
Tell people about the product, and then
Yes.
kind of lead into Shark Tank. I don't even
Yeah.
know that whole transitional
That
period.
whole transitional
Yeah.
period. So I had been out now about a year, and so here's how it happened. I have a very close first cousin who at the time was an air marshal, and he was on a plane. He was working, and the guy that he sat next to, he was talking about Noeen. So my cousin was like, I have a cousin that's in the sports world. This product could actually go really well with it. And what Noeen is, it's this really thin material that absorbs and disperses 96% of shock. And we like to call it as high frequency shock. So high frequency shock is the vibrations. It's not the impact where it makes impact. It's the vibration because of the impact. So for instance, if you take a metal bat and you hit a metal pole, the vibration that comes down the bat and stings your hands is high frequency shock, right? So this material is able to take that, absorb it, and internally disperse it so you don't get those shock waves. And when I first learned about it, the first thought was, well, how do you get this into helmets? How do you make contact sports
Yeah.
safer, right? And so I ended up flying over to Europe, saw, the process, great synergy between me and the owner of it. And I said, hey, I can be your guy. Let me bring it back to the States. And that was the agreement. I had the exclusive rights to be the distributor here in the States.
Is this after Target?
This is before Target.
Before Target,
Yeah,
okay.
this is before Target. And I did that. I went to the NFL Business Boot Camp, learned how to pitch the product, do all of this stuff. Shark Tank then called 6 months later. They called the league to say, hey, we're starting another season. Is there anybody that you think might have a product to go on the show? No promises. You don't get any special treatment. You still have to submit your video essay, your written essay, but do you have anything? And they reached out to me. They said, hey, Bryan, Shark Tank reached out. Do you think you might want to present your product? Wow. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I watch Shark Tank. I don't know if you do. Those sharks eat everybody alive. There's no way I'm going on there. And but it took me back to, here's an opportunity that's presented to you. Take the shot, man. Take advantage of it. And I waited until the 12th hour, but I went ahead. I got in my written essay, video essay. I said, you know what? Sure, let's do it. All right. And I studied for it. I watched every single episode as if it was game film. What did people ask the Sharks? How did they respond to it? What was their ask? I mean, I did it all, man. And I got the call to say, hey, we want you on. And next thing you know, I'm walking into the tank. Yep.
Wow. I've interviewed a couple people that have been on Shark Tank before, and what you see on the edited cut,
yes,
and what happens,
two different things.
Walk people through what happened for you.
Two different things. So I'll be honest. I was in the tank probably hour 10 minutes.
It's a long
Hour
time.
15
Yeah,
minutes,
yeah.
long time. Very little I remember. So by the time I was in the tank and then they finally edited and it came out, it was like I was watching for the first time. Now I knew what was going to happen at the end, but
Because it probably been months.
everything else,
Yeah,
it was a long time.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 months. I don't know, it was a while. But the biggest takeaway, what I think is crazy, is when you're in the tank, you ask me a question. If you're a shark, right? You ask me a question, I answer your question, and then someone else asks a question, I answer their question. When in reality, all of them are asking questions at the same time. It is rapid fire, and you're trying to because sharks will say, "I'm out. You won't answer my question. How are we going to work together?" And you won't even answer my question, right? And so you're trying to move at a high pace, but again, it's TV, it's reality television, and it's called Shark Tank for a reason. And we would always laugh and say, "Don't get caught," because they edit it. They'll ask you something crazy, and all the cameras want to capture is you looking like this.
Again, reality TV.
Reality TV. So then they can ask a question, and all of a sudden they catch that, and then they go to commercial. Yeah, but it was a good experience, man. I'm really thankful for it. It still airs. Actually, our episode is about to air in a couple of days again. I know. So it re-airs from time to time, which is really cool.
Yeah. I was able to watch your pitch.
Oh, okay.
So you guys got an investment from
Mark Cuban and Damon John
John
on the show. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What was the experience like working with their team? And
Yeah.
well, let me ask, did the deal come through afterwards? Because I know some of them
I
don't.
know they don't. That's right.
Yeah.
So ours did not. No.
Okay.
You go through this due diligence period, and it was like a 2 to 3 week thing. What we ended up doing was they needed testing done here in the States domestically, which was totally fine. And again, everything that you do, you lean on those contacts. So while I was playing in the league, actually, I had been in contact with the research facility, like high tech, that would test different materials and athletic science, all this stuff. And I reached out to the university. I was like, "Hey, I was just on Shark Tank. Can you guys test this material?" They did it, came back, passed with flying colors, right? So Mark and Damon, they wanted to take it to another shoe company and say, "Hey, we're going to license it to them." I'm all excited.
Yeah.
They got to the point, the part of how much volume we had to make and create, and we couldn't do it. It was astronomical. It was like, man, we can't do this. I'm talking to Europe. I'm like, "Hey, can we do it? We got the sharks on the hook." They're like, "Bryan, it's very precise. It's made in Switzerland. We can't make it that fast. Like, it just is what it is." So we shook hands. We went separate ways, and Damon, he looked at me and he said, "Bryan, I think you'll do fine with it. Just, I like to get things involved, blow it up, and move from it."
Understandable. Yeah.
So that was that. But during that whole 2 week period, Damon was in on a lot of the calls. Mark, not his team was, but Mark wasn't really involved. But even still, some of those calls, man, and I don't know how they do it, because they get involved with so many business deals, and you only got 24 hours in a day. And a lot of times they would say, "Okay, you have a call with, Damon and his team at 1 p.m. Make sure you're on the call." They would call us 30 minutes before. "Hey, you on the call? We're sitting on the conference line. 30 minutes. We're sitting on the call. 1 o'clock comes. They would, "Nope, he's not ready yet. These other meetings are running long." Okay, 1:15. We're still on the call. "Nope, yeah." 1:30. Nope. 1:45. Okay, he can't make it today. We'll reschedule.
Ooh.
It's like, man, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's tough to deal with.
That's tough, right?
Yeah.
But again, I'm thankful for everything that kind of transpired from it, because when the deal fell through, I was thinking, man, this is really tough. But it opened the door for Foot Solutions and what I'm doing now. So that Knowing product that I pitched on Shark Tank, we now sell it inside of our stores for Foot Solutions. And it's great because a lot of we call it podorthist, right? It's a board certified podorthist, a healthcare ally to podiatrist. And our foot experts, they can present Knowing, they can talk about the benefits and why everyone really needs this material in their shoes. So,
man, so it all comes, it's going to work
out.
out.
It works out.
If it's going to work out, it's going to work out.
That's right. And it might
always
not be
comes
the way
together.
that you think it will, but it always will work out.
Man, so you bought into Knowing before Target, did Target, met John at Target.
That's right.
You guys formed a relationship.
That's right.
And did Foot Solutions purchase Knowing, or you guys had a partner? Okay.
Yeah. So Foot Solutions acquired Knowing, and then I bought back into Foot Solutions.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long ago did they acquire Noween and you bought back in?
Yeah. So this was February of 2020 is when I met John. So all of this happened pretty much during COVID.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
And
So
since-
you
yeah.
fast forward, I mean, that was 6-7 years after it aired on Shark Tank. But between that time, we were able to build more machines,
Yeah.
make as much material as we needed. And yeah, the timing was just perfect.
Man. And tell people, I know we talked about at the beginning of the interview a few
Yeah.
hours ago, but you're so passionate about Foot Solutions, and I've
Yeah.
seen the impact. We've gotten to do work
Yeah.
together. I see the products. Tell people
Yes.
about it.
Yeah. So it's a retail-based foot wellness franchise. And upon first glance, if you ever went into a Foot Solutions store, you would think that it's a shoe store because we have shoes. However, it is a sit and fit type thing that when people come to us, it's because they're dealing with some type of foot pain, whether it's plantar fasciitis, a bunion, corn, calluses, hammer toes, and when I say we make custom orthotics, so I think it's really important for people to understand an orthotic, a truly custom orthotic is made just for you, just for your feet, right? Companies will say, oh, we have customized orthotics, but that just means you can stand on a scanner and they can say, okay, you need option A. Well, that option it's been customized for you. Like we're picking this option for you versus our technology. We scan your feet, but then we actually it's built up either through a 3D printer or it's milled and it's made just for you. So that is one out of millions just for your feet. And a lot of times your left foot doesn't match your right foot. So if you just buy something off the shelf, that might not work for you. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it does not.
Yeah.
So and then you take that and then we sell different brands of shoes where it houses the orthotic because not every shoe is made to fit an orthotic. And so we sell the different brands of shoes, athletic, casual, again, first getting into this space, Jordan, I'll tell you, we had franchisees already in the system that would say, Bryan or B. Scott, wait till you get your first hug. I was like, what are you talking about, your first hug? They said, listen, no, I'm serious. Somebody's going to come into the store and they're going to walk in pain and they're going to see your foot experts and you're going to get them what they need. They're going to stand up. They're going to take a couple of steps and they're going to say, can I give you a hug? Thank you for this. And we've seen that time and time and time again. So I feel really good about what we're doing. It's such it feels so good to help people, man. At the end of the day, you're helping people. And when they say the foot is connected, we say your feet are the foundation of your health. Let us take care of them for you. But how important are the feet? Because if your feet hurt, and because your feet hurt now, you are now stagnant. Like you're not moving. You've been there. When injury pushes you down to where you can't do what you love to do, it messes, not just physically, it messes with you mentally, emotionally. And so to be able to give people kind of like that peace of mind and get them back to doing what they love, man, it feels so good. And I've been there before, being injured and thinking like, man, I can't do what I love to do anymore.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is, man. But it aligns. I feel like Foot Solutions aligns perfectly with kind of your life's purpose and vision, which is I just want to help people, and put a smile on their face, and make the world a better place.
That's right. And kind of a fun side note. So Noween, it's the weirdest name, but Noween actually stands for no energy negativa, no negative energy. That's how I live life. No negative energy, positive vibes only. So again, just aligned, man.
It does. And was the name already made before you had?
The name was already it was already there. I came on board.
Serendipitous, man.
Yes.
It's perfect timing.
Very much
man,
so.
That's amazing. Before we wrap up for the interview, I got to ask about personal hobby life.
Okay.
You are an amazing singer and piano player. Just tell people about, because we've talked all about your life's journey and kind of what you've done, but man, there's still so much more to you. And we've been at it for hours. We got to get you out of here. Yeah, man, like just tell me where that passion comes from. And then I've got it on my notes. I'm Players Choir.
Okay.
The Players Choir.
Okay.
Yes. Just tell us about that.
Well, so grew up around music. My family is very musical. When you get together over the holidays and you sing, there's the harmonies coming in. It's really, really cool. I grew up loving the drums. I would plop the pots and pans when I was a kid and pretend it was a drum set.
Yeah.
And then I told you I'm one of three. I have an older sister, younger brother. my older sister would take piano lessons, and I was that arrogant little brother that was like, I could do that, whatever. I'd listen to her lesson and then try to figure out what she did playing by ear. So I've always loved it. I wouldn't call myself an incredible singer or musician by any means. I just love music, man. I was in the high school choir, jazz band. I mean, I just really appreciate it. And one of my routines while I was playing football, whenever it was an away game, we were at a hotel, I would go and I would find the piano in the hotel. And I would go sit, I would just play. It was just calming for me.
Yeah.
And yes, now I'm part of this group. It's called the NFL Players Choir. It's a group of both current and former players. And we go to different events, man, and we sing and we just make it a good time, full of whatever inspirational, motivational, we'll go, we'll sing together. We were on America's Got Talent. We had a top 5 finish, just this past year, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I just love music, man. All types, all genres, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I say everyone can sing. Maybe you might not be able to sing well, but everyone can sing. That's right.
Man, you know what? You saying that? I'll have to sing at some point. I don't even sing at all, but if you're saying everybody can sing,
everyone can sing.
That's
the movie Ratatouille. Anyone can cook.
Yeah,
anyone can sing.
Anyone can sing.
That's right.
Okay, well, I'm putting it out there now. I'll have to do it at some point.
Yeah,
you've inspired me, man. Yeah. Bryan, before we wrap up, man, anything else you want to leave with people? I mean, you've shared so much today.
Yeah. Man, Jordan, I really appreciate you creating this space to share this moment. It's big, and hopefully any listener, they can take something from it.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, I always like to say, make it great, pass it forward, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay it forward to the next.
Well, you have done that, man. Thank you for sharing your story about your whole life's journey, being open and honest and vulnerable, giving us your precious time. A lot of people are pulling you in different directions. I appreciate you, man, for everything you've done for me and just for the community, and just we love you, man, and we just really appreciate you.
Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. And then for everybody watching, as you can see, Bryan is the man. There's so much more to his story, but just thank you, Bryan, for coming on today, and thank you all for listening. We will see you next week on Find Your Edge. Take care.